It was a quiet sort of betrayal. The kind that doesn't slam doors or spill wine across the tablecloth. It sat there instead, smiling with teeth too white, laughing in a voice too loud, moving around the room like it belonged more than I ever did. That night was lasagna night. Friday dinner, a weak attempt at family ritual. Melissa had baked it in the old glass pan that still bore scratches from her first marriage. Burnt edges, too much garlic, just how I liked it. Not that she said so anymore. Her voice had become public property. Sweet for guests, flat for me. Her parents were visiting from Cincinnati. Arched backs, polite smiles, judgment curling in every corner of their eyes. They never liked me. Never said it outright, but it was in the way her father asked me what I really did for a living each visit, like I changed careers mid-conversation. Across from me sat Kyle, my stepson, teen barely. Thin in that dangerous way, elbows like blades, neck like a question mark, always one smart comment away from open contempt. He was wearing the hoodie I'd bought him last Christmas. The same one he never thanked me for. "Pass the Parmesan," he said, not looking at me. He addressed the room like a court jester, smirking, leaning back so far in his chair I almost wished he'd tip over. I handed it to him anyway, out of habit, out of muscle memory, out of some stupid notion that maybe, if I just kept showing up, he'd stop seeing me as the man who wasn't his father. Melissa was talking about porch renovations. Her mother nodded like she cared. Her father watched me the way someone watches an insect stuck in a jar. I focused on my food. Chewing felt mechanical. The edges were charred just right. She used to mention that when we were alone. She used to care if I noticed the effort. Then Kyle cleared his throat. Just loud enough. "You know," he said, voice too casual to be innocent. "People keep asking me if we're related." The table went still, but I kept chewing. He tilted his head. "And I tell them, nope, he's not my father." It was quiet after that. The kind of quiet that rings. Melissa didn't say a word. She didn't raise an eyebrow. She didn't reach for my hand under the table like she had once. Back when things were soft between us. Back when we believed we could build something new from pieces that didn't fit. No, she nodded. Just once. As if it were a fact. As if Kyle had said, "It's raining outside," or "Pass the salt." That nod, that quiet agreement was the moment the floor dropped. I set my fork down. The clink on the plate was absurdly loud. No one looked at me. No one said, "That's not fair." No one said, "Don't talk to him like that." I wanted to speak. I wanted to say something measured and calm. Something that wouldn't turn this into a scene. But every word I could think of curdled in my throat. Because what do you say when your family tells you, in so many words, that you were never part of it? I chewed one last bite, swallowed it like gravel. Then I stood. "I'll do the dishes," I said. Melissa gave a small, dismissive wave. As if to say, "Of course you will." In the kitchen, the water ran hot. Steam blurred the windows. I washed each plate slowly, methodically. Her mother laughed at something in the other room. Kyle muttered something about a Netflix show. And me? I stood at the sink with shaking hands, pretending I wasn't unraveling. It wasn't just Kyle's words. It was the years beneath them. Years of paying bills in silence. Of driving him to practices when his real father forgot. Of pretending I didn't notice when he introduced me as just my mom's husband. Of making Melissa coffee on mornings she refused to get out of bed, whispering things would get better, though I was no longer sure they would. Of waiting for some kind of acknowledgement. Some sign that I was wanted here, not just needed. Because there's a difference. They needed me, but they didn't want me. Later, in bed, Melissa lay on her side, scrolling through her phone. She didn't bring up the dinner. She didn't say, "I'm sorry." She said, "Don't forget Kyle's college deposit is due next week." Like that was the next item on the checklist. Like nothing had happened. I stared at the ceiling. The fan spun slow, ticking every time the blade hit the warped section of the fixture. I counted each tick. Melissa turned off the light without asking. Rolled further away. I stared into the dark. I let it surround me. That night I didn't sleep. That night I left. Not physically. Not yet. But I closed a door in my mind. Locked it. They didn't notice. They never do until the hinges rot. And then they ask why the cold gets in. I didn't shower the next morning. Didn't shave. Didn't make coffee or listen for the familiar creak of Kyle's door. I sat at the edge of the bed long after Melissa had left for her morning run, staring at the grooves in the hardwood floor like they were trying to tell me something. The bag was already half-packed. Not out in the open, nothing so dramatic. I started days ago, weeks maybe, though I didn't know it at the time. A few papers slipped quietly into the filing pouch. A charger coiled neatly and placed aside. A travel bag unfolded in the back of the closet. Unspoken, unnoticed. That morning I simply zipped it shut. One bag. That's all I allowed myself. It felt important somehow to limit the weight. Documents. Passport. The car title. My laptop. 2 changes of clothes. Toothbrush. No photographs. No keepsakes. No childhood art projects that weren't mine to remember. The house was quiet. Upstairs, Kyle snored like the world owed him sleep. In the kitchen, the coffee pot gurgled on its timer, brewing for no one. Melissa wouldn't be back for another 20 minutes. She always took the long trail when she needed to think. I didn't leave a note. What was there to say? This wasn't a departure. It was an erasure. I walked room to room like a ghost, touching nothing, taking nothing. The furniture? I'd bought most of it. The television? Mine. The car in the garage? Also mine. But I left it all behind. Not because I was generous, but because I was finished. Let them keep the set pieces. Let them act out the second act of their play without the man who built the stage. Before I left, I opened the utility apps on my phone. Gas, water, internet, mortgage. Every account bore my name. Every automatic payment linked to my checking account. Every service they depended on flowed through me like blood through a vein. One by one, I turned them off. Not in anger, not in vengeance, but in truth. Because I realized something that morning, something so obvious I nearly laughed. This house only stood because I held it up, not through presence, through pressure, through the quiet, constant pressure of a man who never asked for recognition but was bled dry all the same. Melissa had told me once, years ago before the silence grew long between us, that she admired my steadiness, that I was safe. At the time, I took it as a compliment. Now I understand. What she meant was, I wouldn't leave. I was dependable, predictable, fixed object. And fixed objects are easy to lean on, easy to forget, easy to break. I checked the time. 5:47 a.m. The sun was just beginning to slip through the trees. The street was quiet. Not even the neighbor's dog had started barking yet. I closed the door gently behind me, locked it, slid the key under the mat. The weight of the bag over my shoulder felt light, liberating. In the rearview mirror, the house looked small, smaller than I remembered, as if it had already started shrinking without me. I didn't drive fast. I didn't have a destination, not really. I headed east, away from the city, away from routine. Gas station coffee in a styrofoam cup. A quiet diner an hour later with eggs that tasted like cardboard and a waitress who called me Han. I watched the morning unfold through glass. And I waited. It didn't take long. By 8 a.m. the texts began. Melissa, where are you? Melissa, did you take the car? I thought you had work today. Melissa, your wallet is gone. Did something happen? I let them pile up. Then came the phone calls. Kyle called, which surprised me. I didn't answer. He left a voicemail. Voice clipped. Annoyed. Hey, Mom says you disappeared. I don't know what the hell's going on, but if you're ditching us, at least have the decency to say so. Decency. That word felt heavy in his mouth. Like he didn't know what it meant, but knew how to *p***nize it. I turned the phone off. I'd already said what I needed to, just not with words. By mid-morning, the first cracks would appear. The bank account frozen. The mortgage payment declined. The electricity bill due. They'd wonder what happened. They'd ask each other, didn't he say everything was automatic? Didn't he say we were taken care of? Yes. I had, because they asked me to be invisible and I complied. But invisibility has a price. And now they were going to pay it. I pulled into a rest stop off the highway around noon, walked into the men's room, stared at myself in the mirror. Same face, same lines around the eyes, but something had shifted beneath it. I looked less like a man and more like a decision. I splashed cold water on my face, dried it with rough paper towels. Back in the car, I called the attorney. He answered on the second ring. "Michael," he said, "everything okay?" I told him I needed to know the full extent of what I owned, what I was legally responsible for, what I could walk away from. He asked questions. I answered. When we hung up, the math was simple. I didn't owe them anything. Not legally. Not morally. Not anymore. The house wasn't in Melissa's name. She'd asked me to leave her off the documents, in case something happened. Kyle's tuition account? My contributions only. The utilities? All under my signature. I had been the skeleton beneath their skin. And now that I'd stepped away, I wondered how long they'd stand before they collapsed. But I didn't wish them harm. I just wanted them to see the scaffolding they'd pretended wasn't there, to realize how much space I occupied, even in silence, even in absence. The bag sat on the passenger seat beside me, unassuming. It held my life now, or maybe it always had. I drove on. No music, just wind and road. The absence of noise was addictive. The kind of silence that made you feel like you'd stepped outside your own life and found yourself watching from a distance. I imagined them walking through the house, flicking light switches that didn't work, opening the fridge and finding it warm, trying to reach me, and finding nothing but the echo of their own neglect. Because here's what they never understood. I never needed to yell. I never needed revenge. All I needed was a bag and a closed door. The first voicemail came just before noon the next day. Melissa's voice, tight, clipped, but still clinging to the illusion of control, hovered just above panic. "Hey, call me when you get this. I don't know what's going on. The electricity's out, and the bank's saying our joint account is frozen. Just call me. Okay?" I didn't. She left 6 more over the next 4 hours. Each one a little more frantic, a little less composed. Her voice began to crack around the third. "Michael, they said the mortgage bounced. What the hell is happening? I thought it was automatic. I thought you..." Click. By the 6th, she was crying. The power had gone out. The water was running low pressure. The internet was dead. Kyle, she said, had tried to pay for gas and found his debit card declined. His voice, in the background of that last message, was full of confusion and anger. That's when I knew they were starting to understand. By the next morning, Kyle's tone had changed. The texts he sent me were no longer casual, no longer laced with mockery or teenage smugness. They were sharp, demanding, desperate. "Dude, what the hell did you do? I can't even buy lunch on campus. My card's dead. My school portal says payment overdue. What the hell is this?" I didn't respond. Melissa followed up an hour later. No longer angry, just scared. "Michael, please, we need to talk. There's something wrong with the accounts. I don't know what to tell Kyle. Please." Still, I said nothing. I didn't need to say anything. The facts were louder than words now. When the lights don't turn on, when the water runs cold, when the tuition notice comes stamped in red, people stop asking why and start remembering who. And who they'd erased was me. By the 3rd day, Kyle's texts turned hostile. "This is messed up. You think this is funny? Ruining my life like this?" He followed it with, "You're not even my real dad. You don't get to control this." And then, minutes later, "I didn't mean that. Just, please. I need this fixed." That's when I knew he was slipping. The false confidence had cracked. He was trying to claw his way back to certainty, but there was no handhold left. He'd used up all his leverage in one dinner. He'd spent 16 years of my effort in a single sentence. Now he wanted credit back. But the bank was closed. Melissa tried again that night. She called 6 times. Left one message. "Please, just talk to us. If this is about what Kyle said at dinner, he didn't mean it. He's just a kid." He was angry. You know how he gets. You can't just disappear. That's not fair. Fair. That word again. Funny how it only enters the conversation once they're losing something. Fair wasn't standing in the rain at Kyle's soccer games while his real father sent photos from the Bahamas. Fair wasn't working weekends to pay for Melissa's dream kitchen while Kyle left his dishes in the sink like I was the maid. Fair wasn't watching a boy grow up under your roof, feeding him, clothing him, protecting him, only to be told in front of company that your presence meant nothing. Fair died a long time ago. Now all that remained was arithmetic, and the math no longer added up in their favor. By Friday, Melissa stopped pretending. Her message was short. I don't know what to do. He's falling apart. He won't leave his room. He says you destroyed his future. Please, Michael, just help him finish the semester. That's all I'm asking. She didn't ask me to come home. She didn't say she missed me. She didn't say I'm sorry. She said help him finish the semester. As if I were still just the bank. Still the invisible scaffolding. Still the man in the basement, turning dials so the house above him could shine. But I'd shut off the power. And now they were living in the dark. Saturday morning I got an email. From Kyle. Subject line, I'm sorry. The body was 2 sentences. I was wrong. Please help me. Please. No greeting. No sign-off. No punctuation beyond the final period. It read like someone typing through tears. I stared at the screen for a long time. I didn't delete it, but I didn't reply, because I didn't believe it. Not yet. It wasn't repentance. It was fear. He wasn't sorry for what he'd said. He was sorry for the consequences. And that's not the same thing. That afternoon, I drove past the house. Just once. I didn't stop. I didn't park. I didn't even slow down. But I saw enough. The front porch light was off. Burnt out and never replaced. The recycling bin was overflowing, ignored. Melissa's car was gone. Likely picking up groceries with her own money for the first time in years. And Kyle's car, the one I'd bought him on his 17th birthday, was parked crooked. One wheel up on the curb. It hadn't been washed in weeks. The house looked thinner, like something essential had been drained from it. Or maybe that something was me. I kept driving. By Sunday, Melissa texted again. The landlord says if the mortgage isn't paid by Wednesday, we get a penalty. It's in your name, but it'll affect all of us. Please, I'll do whatever you want. Just fix this. There it was. Not an apology. Not regret. A bargain. She'd do whatever I wanted. But she still didn't understand. I didn't want anything. Not anymore. This wasn't punishment. This was the natural consequence of believing someone's presence was permanent, unconditional, automatic. It never was. They had just been too comfortable to notice the hinges. Now the door was gone, and winter was coming in through the frame. I sat in a motel that night, the kind with the old floral comforters and buzzing mini fridges. The curtains were drawn. The heater clicked every 30 seconds. The air smelled faintly of bleach and old sweat. It was perfect. No memories. No photos. No expectation. Just me, my bag, and the quiet hum of a world that had let me go. I pulled out my laptop, logged into the student portal. Kyle's tuition status. Unpaid. Status. On hold. Notes. Financial review pending. The wheels were in motion. Soon, the university would send their own final notice. No more classes. No more campus housing. No more safety net. He'd have to go to his real father now. The man who sent a birthday card every 3rd year. The man who always had excuses and never the time. The man who never stayed long enough to be told he wasn't a father. Let's see how far that bloodline carries him now. I shut the laptop, turned off the light, lay back on the stiff mattress and closed my eyes. The motel creaked in the wind. Outside, someone's car alarm chirped once, then fell silent. And for the first time in years, I slept soundly. No tension in my chest. No cold silence beside me in bed. No guilt pressing down on my ribs. I had vanished from the stage. And now, the audience was left staring at an empty spotlight. They say when you cut someone off, you leave them behind. But that's not true. You don't leave people behind. You leave the version of yourself that begged to be seen, that waited at tables you were never invited to, that paid every price in silence. That version stays. You bury him in the house you built for others. And then you walk away. It had been 11 days. No payments had resumed. No transfers made. No calls returned. I hadn't sent a word, not even to say goodbye. They filled the silence in their own ways. Melissa went from pleas to guilt, from guilt to veiled threats, from threats to apologies laced with subtext. One message stood out. I don't know how we got here. I thought we were building something. I thought you were part of this family. The audacity. I stared at that sentence for a long time. Part of this family. As if I hadn't lived in the margins for 16 years. As if I hadn't been written out of every moment that mattered. When Kyle had appendicitis at 13, I drove him to the hospital, held his hand through the morphine haze, filled the prescriptions, slept in the chair beside him. When he woke up, groggy and weak, he whispered, "Is my dad coming?" I told myself he meant me. He didn't. When Melissa's car broke down 2 winters ago, it was my emergency fund that bought her a new one. I used my vacation days to handle the paperwork, missed the trip I had planned for myself, never heard a word of thanks. She called it ours. But it was never mine. The family, the house, the routine. It was all hers. I was the scaffolding. Now the frame stood without it. And it was falling apart. A friend of mine, Michael, once told me something I didn't understand at the time. He said, "You can love a child like your own, but the world won't let you forget that you're not." I dismissed it back then, told him that love was enough, that presence mattered more than blood. But I get it now. Love isn't a currency in these roles. It's a service. One expected, never returned. One morning, I stopped at a coffee shop near the lake. One of those quiet places with handwritten chalk menus and real mugs if you stayed. I stayed. Not because I wanted to linger, but because I needed to know if I could still be still. I took my coffee outside. The air was cold, crisp, the kind of January cold that doesn't cut. It hums, just beneath the skin. Across the lake, geese drifted over the water like thoughts I no longer chased. And I thought, this is what they never understood. Leaving wasn't destruction. It wasn't revenge. It was the first breath after being underwater for too long. It was silence, not absence. Stillness, not abandonment. The absence they felt was only proportionate to the weight I carried. And they were finally carrying their share. Kyle hadn't messaged me in 4 days. Not since the university called Melissa directly. The registrar left a message on the home line, one I still had access to. Final notice. No payment received. Enrollment suspended. I could picture the moment. Kyle reading the email, staring at the words, his brain refusing to process what had happened. Then the panic. Then the blame. He would look to Melissa. Melissa would look for me. And I wouldn't be there. Because I didn't need to be. That was the difference. They needed me. But I no longer needed them. That afternoon, I checked into a short-term rental. Small place. 1 bedroom. Hardwood floors that groaned when you walked across them. The kind of space that didn't echo when you moved. I didn't bring much. Just the bag. The bag had become everything. My past. My proof. My freedom. I set up a table near the window, opened my laptop, resumed freelance work I'd put off for years. Work that didn't need a commute. Work that didn't depend on a thank you. There was peace in being productive for yourself. There was pride in earning without being taken for granted. On the 5th night, I got a knock on the door. I didn't answer at first. Then came the voice. Kyle. He wasn't yelling. Wasn't mocking. Just saying my name low, like he was afraid the wind might carry it away. I opened the door. He stood there, thinner than I remembered. Hoodie damp from melted snow. Hair unwashed. Eyes sunken from too many sleepless nights. In his hands, a folder. Tuition bills. Rent notices. Printed emails. He didn't say anything for a full minute. Then, I get it now. I didn't move. I didn't before. I was stupid. I thought you were just there. Like the light switch. Like the fridge being full. I didn't think about it. He swallowed hard. Todd's not answering. He hasn't called back. He told Mom he was working on it. But he's not. He's not going to. I waited. He looked at me, and for the first time in years, there was no sarcasm in his eyes. No arrogance. Just something tired. Human. You said something once, he murmured. You said you weren't trying to replace anyone. You just wanted to be someone I could count on. He looked down at the folder. I counted on you. Too much. I didn't say it. I stepped aside. Let him in. He didn't sit. He stood there in the small space, holding his guilt like a physical object. I'm not asking for money, he said. Not anymore. I'm not asking for anything. I'm sorry. For that night. For what I said. I didn't mean it. I nodded. He went to hand me the folder. I didn't take it. I know, I said quietly. But you said it. He nodded. Slowly. I gestured to the small dining table. He sat. Looked smaller than I'd ever seen him. I'm not going to fix everything, I said. Not again. Not like before. I know. But I'll help you get started. He looked up, eyes wide. Not because you deserve it, but because I do. He didn't understand, not yet. But he would. We spent 2 hours reviewing his documents. Tuition breakdowns, financial aid, late fees. I didn't offer to pay it all. I helped him draft an appeal to the university. Taught him how to negotiate with landlords. Showed him how to build a budget. Left gaps. Gaps he'd have to figure out himself. When he left, it was dark. He turned at the door. I still don't know what to call you, he said. I mean, you're not my. Don't, I said. It doesn't matter. He nodded once, grateful. Then he was gone. I closed the door behind him, locked it, stood in the quiet again. And this time the quiet didn't hurt. Melissa called the next day. I didn't answer. She texted instead. Thank you. He told me you helped. I didn't expect you to. But thank you. I read it once, then deleted it. No reply, because help isn't reconciliation. Forgiveness isn't invitation. Some doors, once closed, stay closed. I helped Kyle. That was enough. Not as a father. Not as a step anything. As a man who had once carried another man's son. And set him down. Not in anger. But because the weight had become too much. That's the truth no one tells you. Sometimes love is not enough to keep you in a place that will not honor you. Sometimes walking away isn't weakness. It's the last strength you have. And silence? Silence is not abandonment. Silence is what's left when you've said everything, done everything, and still been made invisible. So now I ask you, was I wrong to leave? Was I wrong to finally draw a line between what I gave and what I received? Was I wrong to demand that love without respect is not love at all? Tell me, would you have endured it? Or would you have picked up the bag like I did and walked into the quiet?